Hi, I'm Faye Bankler Casell. I am a dyslexia therapist, a certified academic language therapist, and your home reading coach. This is my YouTube channel, Teach My Child to Read. And what you're about to see is the third part of a three-part discussion I had with Dr. Joy Nicewander and Dr. Michelle Zweibach. They are both licensed school psychologists and licensed psychologists, and they test for dyslexia. I hope you enjoy. So one of the things that happens when parents are looking at dyslexia, and a question that comes up is dual language immersion. But my son's friends are all in the French dual language, and how is it going to impact him to pull him out? Or should I just focus on English, assuming the family speaks English at home, not French? Do you see a lot of that? Do you have any intel or insight?
Yes, we see a lot of that. So I get that immersion is a great thing for many kids. And I think learning a second language is amazing. But what we know about kids with dyslexia is that English already feels like a second language. So it's already going to be really challenging for them to learn in English, most likely, especially learn to read in English. The evidence-based research does not support immersion in dual language for kids with dyslexia. And that's why when kids get to high school, we often recommend a substitution for foreign language requirements because we know that those kids really struggle to learn another language. So things like American Sign Language is a great option. But I know that there's social pressures and there's educational pressures to stay in those programs. So I get that it's tricky, but I usually try my best to discourage kids from dyslexia being in those programs.
Do you feel like you need to add anything to that? Or?
I would say when they do force it, you end up finding that the children have low language proficiency in both languages. And so sometimes not only do they struggle to learn the second language, but their English skills also suffer. So that's part of it.
That's a great perspective to have. Let's talk about private schools, because another vein that families go in is feeling like my child has dyslexia, so I should pull them from the large public school and put them in a private school where the class size is smaller. And certainly private schools run the gamut of what that means. So if a family is wanting to consider a private school, do you have any kind of, here are the sort of questions you're going to want to ask, or the indicators that it might be a good setting for a child with dyslexia?
I would be asking, do you have services for dyslexia? Is it going to cost me extra? How much? How are you servicing students with dyslexia? Like what program? Is it research-based? How many days a week? Some of them don't have it at all. Some of them do. I've worked with a lot of good private schools who actually do have dyslexia specialists, so I've seen progress in that area. And so if that's the case and it works out great, it might be even better than public school, but not all of them do, and they're not required to. So those are the questions I would ask. And Joy, maybe you have some other ideas.
I would want to know, do they offer intervention and then do they offer accommodations? So the intervention piece, who is providing the intervention? Is it a certified academic language therapist? Who is it, just a teacher who they've put in that capacity, or is it someone who's highly trained? How many days a week are they providing that service? And then the other side is, do they provide accommodations for dyslexia? What I see more is they might not have the intervention, but they do allow for accommodations. But for newly diagnosed students with dyslexia, usually intervention is key.
Some private schools will also let you bring in your own private tutor to the school. And so that's a good middle ground as well. It happens during the school day.
Yes.
So some families have to do it after school, but sometimes it can happen during school.
Yes. So in Houston, where there's a very sizable community of dyslexia providers and private schools, I have also seen that that the private schools are starting to hire their own dyslexia therapists, or that they are very accommodating for an outside therapist to come in. And in those cases, a lot of the times, the dyslexia therapist might recommend that the child come during a foreign language block. You mentioned accommodations. What are the top ones? And they're obviously should be tailored to the individuals, but I'm sure you have some pretty much universal.
It does depend on the child. And sometimes while we're testing, you might notice something about them and you're like, oh, I can already see how this is going to affect them in school. But I would say like the most common are extra time on test. If it's a test that's not for reading, having somebody read the questions and answer choices to them. Maybe like offering speech to text, text to speech, audiobooks being available.
Not penalizing for spelling errors, or sometimes shortening the spelling test, allowing a laptop with spell check. Really, I think the overarching goal is to try to remove the barrier. So if we're trying to test their knowledge about something, not making it about their reading or their spelling, more about what do they know about the topic. And then I think audiobooks is usually my number one as soon as possible.
Yes. A lot of families who do get privately tested, and this was a case in my family, not for dyslexia, but ADHD, he was also identified as having dysgraphia, and the school does not acknowledge that diagnosis as an educational need for him. As a special educator, I see that he has dysgraphia and that it impacts him. But can you talk a little bit about grade accommodations? Because a lot of times those go hand in hand. And do you know how often they do go hand in hand generally?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I do see it pretty often. Common accommodations for that would be like allowing them to type instead of write, or maybe they give like a verbal presentation instead of writing an essay, giving them extra time.
Speech to text is a big one. I know in the younger grades, it's more that intervention piece. So thinking about, do we want to get OT? Do we want to really focus on this? And by middle school, usually that's when I'm like, laptop for everything. No longer learning how to write. We now need to learn to use the tools that we have. Keyboarding, if they're diagnosed even as early as first grade, I'm like, let's teach them proper keyboarding because that's going to be their lifeline.
Great.
So I think that's huge. If anything, kids with dysgraphia, if they can learn proper keyboarding techniques, that'll serve them.
And sometimes occupational therapy helps with like the fine motor control and everything. And we'll test for that as well. Sometimes it's like fine motor skills and visual motor integration. I'll refer them to an OT for further evaluation.
So tell me what questions I need to ask that I haven't asked. Or things that you feel like you always say to parents or you want them to know.
Maybe like questions about the IEP process. Because some families do want to go through the schools. So just knowing that like it's a long process if you go through the schools. From the time you sign consent, it's 45 school days for the school psychologist or diagnostician to complete the testing. And then once that's completed, it's another 30 calendar days before they come to the IEP meeting. But something that I think is important is parents need to feel empowered. I saw something you posted the other day about the procedural safeguard. That was really good advice.
It was my hack to fake that you
fake
feel
it till you
empowered.
make it.
Yeah.
Feel confident, but ask a lot of questions. If you don't know what they're talking about, be sure to ask because they seem intimidating, I think. And parents, I've heard so many parents say they left the ARD meeting and then went in their car and cried.
Yeah, I know.
They do.
And as a person who used to be at the ARD table, I had no idea that was happening until somebody told me later. And I wish I had known because if I would have spent more time with the parent, and it's okay if you get in your car and cry, like as the parent, I've done that too. But feel empowered, ask the questions, and it is the ARD committee's job to take the time to make sure you understand and feel good about it. You don't have to agree to anything that you don't want to.
And I just want to mention that when we say ARD committee, ARD is right in Texas, admissions review,
I don't even know if they call them ARDs anymore, but when I was
taught, but it's an IEP meeting. Yes,
it's an IEP meeting, and we in Texas love to call things different things.
Yes, yes, have our
ARD,
own words.
IEP, and that's the whole point, right? There's so many acronyms, nobody knows what we're talking about. So read your procedural safeguards because that's where it all is. And there's another really good one called A Parent's Guide to the ARD Process.
Which is Texas.
Yes.
Yes, Texas does have that. Some states don't.
Right.
And
that one is more user-friendly, I think,
that
to
one
read.
is very user-friendly. So what I'll do is I will, in the show notes for this, I'll put some links even to the Texas Parent ARD Guide, just so if they're not in Texas, they can have a look because it does really walk you through the IEP process and the procedural safeguards. Did you have anything that you were thinking?
So I usually recommend whether parents are in private school or public school to familiarize themselves with the Texas TA Dyslexia handbook. I find that handbook to be really useful and reader friendly. So I think it's good because it has the risk factors. It has, what you might look for at different ages if you suspect your child of having dyslexia. Here's some accommodations that could be helpful. Here's the evidence-based programs we have for intervention. So it's useful no matter where your child is going to be going to school.
So I will also put that back. And then
I have a really great app idea for maybe a parent who also has dyslexia and doesn't want to read all that. There's an app called Speechify.
yes,
You can literally take a picture of those text and it will read it to you. And it's a free app. You can upload a PDF or you can take a picture of the pages and you could listen to it while you're cleaning or in the car.
That's perfect.
We are
because
podcast lovers. So.
Yeah.
So I get the question a lot. I'm sure y'all do too. Is this going to go away? Is this something we have forever? And I usually will say dyslexia is a lifelong condition, but it can be remediated. And I think we both have the experience of working with kids. We evaluate them at the age of 7. They get good intervention, and then we see them again in high school, and it's been remediated to the point that if you didn't know, you might not even pick up on it at that high school point. Not to say they shouldn't still be eligible for accommodations and such, but this is why what you do is huge, because the early intervention is key.
Right.
So I think that's what I tell families is this is not a death sentence. This is just something that you have that makes you who you are. And there's lots of superpowers that come. The Dyslexia Advantage is a great book that I usually recommend. So just knowing how to work with it is important.
when a child does get an evaluation, let's say in elementary or doesn't, are there any important points where you're going to want to go back and reevaluate and get it updated, like for the College Board or any other thing?
I think maybe you know better than I do, but I know before, if you're in the Catholic school or private school setting, there's a high school entrance exam that you'll want it done relatively recently, at least I would say like a year before that, to justify the accommodations. Same thing for the SAT, and especially for college. If you have been using accommodations, just already having received them isn't enough to get them in college. You have to have an evaluation, I think, within the last 3 years. So I would always recommend reevaluations like junior or senior year to prepare for college.
Do you have any favorite resources that every time you hand somebody a dyslexia diagnosis, you also point them to some favorite resources?
I sometimes point people to like the Learning Disability Association website, like general stuff, so that they have a starting point to research it. I usually send them like to you or different providers that I think would be helpful, but
I will send them to the ALTA website, so if they need to find private dyslexia services, that this is the gold standard.
Right.
If these people are taking clients, you would be in good hands here.
The way that I share them is through I'll show it to camera, the little dyslexia roadmap.
Ooh, nice.
this is hot off the press, right?
It's hot off the press. It's got clickable links. So it goes through all this. Oh, so I'm going to also include in the show notes where people can find you. But do you want to say kind of anything about where you are on social media or your website?
My business is called Brainstorm Psychological Services. It's brainstormpsych.com. I have a Facebook, Brainstorm Psychological Services. Not super active on social media, but it's there, and you can look me up. My email is easy to find on the website. That's the best way to reach me, is by email.
So my practice is called Joy Nicewander, PhD, PLLC. My website is the same, Joy Nicewander, PhD. I am a dinosaur, so I do not have social media. I actually deleted it, and it's been years now, and it's been glorious. So I'm not on social media, but yeah, email, website, phone call.
Okay, I'll include that too. Thank you both so much.
Thanks for having us. This is fun.
I love it.
Thank you.